Madam Presiding Officer, thank you for the opportunity to join the debate at this time. And today in my discourse, I will seek to obtain responses that will help single mothers who desperately require assistance for their families from the Tobago House of Assembly to understand how this motion will affect them as they apply for assistance from the state. And from the point of view of citizens deserving of every kind of assistance that the THA has to offer, the minority will also seek to ensure that this motion does not cause increased bureaucracy, lengthen the application process, and therefore cause added stress and undue burden to the vulnerable and less fortunate in our society seeking assistance. And Madam Presiding Officer, providing that these issues are addressed and mitigated against, the minority is prepared to support this motion. And some of the issues or the questions that were prepared today by the minority, the Secretary of Health will have provided the answers for some of those questions. And I am happy that she brought some clarity, because one of the things that we were seeking to determine is what the motion was intended to achieve. And she would have highlighted that this motion will deal with both the efficiency in the process as well as the duplication of the process. However, Madam Presiding Officer, there are a number of other questions that we would like to pose to the Secretary of Health. And in the fourth paragraph, it is indicated that a whole of government approach will be undertaken. And I am asking Madam Presiding Officer, I'm not sure if the Secretary would have addressed it, is if a client would have gone to one division, is it that the service that this client requires, do they have to go to other divisions to access the service? So say, for example, someone's house would have burned down. Is it that the client seeking support from social services, they may also need some food card assistance? Is this client required to go to one place and they will access the services in one place? Or would the client be redirected to other agencies? Additionally, Madam Presiding Officer, the term that is considered in terms of psychosocial support. And if we look at the textbook definition, it says psychosocial support, and I paraphrase, is defined as support given to help meet the mental, emotional, and social, as well as spiritual needs of individuals. Another author describes it as a broad term describing a range of services offered to those in pressing need. And this is designed to help individuals cope with serious illness or to alleviate distress following a disaster, such as the services which may range from mental health, counseling, and group and spiritual therapy and other assistance. And based on this definition, Madam Presiding Officer, a client may presume that all the services that are offered by the Tobago House of Assembly may be considered psychosocial support. And in this regard, is it that every person or every client seeking social support from the Assembly is required to go through or required to case conference? So the motion proposes case conferencing to treat with all clients seeking psychosocial support. As a single parent seeking assistance from the state, does it mean that my application require case conferencing? And Madam Presiding Officer, because we are such a small, close-knit society, some clients would have an issue with confidentiality and sharing their information across several divisions and persons. So one of the things that the minority is also seeking to find out is how will confidentiality be managed while the case is conferenced. And sometimes, Madam Presiding Officer, some persons, because of varying reasons, may feel discouraged to seek assistance because they feel that everyone is in their business and everyone knows what is happening to them because of pride or varying reasons. So again, Madam Presiding Officer, we will seek to find out how will the case conferencing deal with confidentiality, and ethical concerns of the client. How will that be managed? And Madam Presiding Officer, another concern of the minority, we are seeking to get information on whether or not the client is required to give consent to have their application case conference. And if the applicant does not consent to if the client, does not consent for the application to be case conference, would that client be denied the support that they seek? Additionally, Madam Presiding Officer, in the final paragraph of the motion, it states inter alia that a committee of social support staff from each division will be convened to create a policy. And we are seeking from the Secretary to define who are considered social support staff. Are they social workers, psychologists, business operations assistants? Who are the persons that will be involved in the formation of the policy? And before I conclude, I wish to reiterate that this minority supports whatever policies and programs proposed and implemented by the administration that will improve the lives and advance the development of the island. And therefore, the minority is prepared to support this motion once the pertinent questions are answered and receive the appropriate responses. And as a minority, we will continue to advocate on behalf of all of Tobago and in the interest of everyone seeking assistance so that they can fully understand how this policy will affect them, as well as ensure that the applicants are not disadvantaged. And another concern of the minority, Madam Presiding Officer, is how practical it is to implement this motion. How regular will meetings occur to case conference and application? What steps will be put in place for persons who need urgent assistance? And how will an emergency be managed or addressed under this proposed policy? Is it that persons in an emergency have to wait until the convening of a committee to case conference their application? So we are seeking to determine how will an emergency be managed or addressed under this proposed policy. And further, Madam Presiding Officer, the minority will also propose to put forward some recommendations for the consideration and the implementation of this policy. And one such recommendation is the review of the current grant offerings, keeping in mind the time value of money and also considering the inflation rate of goods and services. And we are all aware that the value of $100 2 years ago is significantly less to $100 spent today. And therefore, reviewing the current grant structure may be necessary at this time. We are also seeking consideration to possibly have a range of grant qualifications, and the range can be from 500 to 5,000, but based on criteria that will be set up by the Executive Council and the policymakers. And another recommendation of the minority is to have an integrated system that can provide information on the various social support accessed by the client across divisions, so that at any one point in time, persons in authority can see what social services support has been accessed by a particular client. And Madam Presiding Officer, finally, in the execution of our duties, this minority will hold the Executive Council to account and will ensure transparency and good governance. And we want to ensure that what is good for Tobago is implemented, and we will support whatever policy that will bring relief to more persons, that is faster and transparent, and that will provide more effective and efficient relief to all deserving citizens. Madam Presiding Officer, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute.